welcome to episode 108 of Geeks Who Like Sports. As always, I'm Ray Carcillo in beautiful Los Angeles, California. Join my best friend the entire world over in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Lee Elias. Lee, how are you doing today?
Ray, there's nothing geekier than wearing geek glasses and having allergies. And we're in the middle of spring, and I'm wearing my glasses a lot more and having allergies. So to combat that, we have extra water to kind of clear our throats. 'Cause, for those who don't know, being a speaker during allergy season is a pain in the butt. So I had my tea, but I took it a step further today. For those of you not watching, I got my son's water bottle. All right, and it's one of those with a straw. So like throughout the show, I can just sip my water. Keep my voice. Like, watch, I'm going to sip it right now. Watch what happens to my voice. You're tuned into Geeks Who Like Sports Live with Ray and Lee on 107 FM. Ray. See, it just happens. Ray, I'm doing well. Actually, it's starting to heat up out there, but it's still somewhat a comfortable temperature here in Philadelphia before the inevitable 90-degree every single day summer that's about to come. Where I'll pretty much just stay inside with my air conditioner most of the time because I am a child of the winter. I'll say that.
Yeah. See, I am actually enjoying this time. I'm a spring baby. I'm actually kind of enjoying this. But like you said, when it gets to be too hot, is when it'll be uncomfortable. Already here in LA, at least during the afternoon, it reaches the low 90s. So I use it
when I sweat by standing outside and doing nothing, that's too much for me.
Yeah.
So naturally, I'll be in Puerto Rico all of next week.
Yes, Lee will be on vacation, so we will probably not have an episode next week.
We may. We'll see.
We'll figure it out. We got to talk about that later, figure out our schedule.
Yeah, we will talk about it. If you want us to do an episode, comment by following Geeks Who Like Sports by 15 of your friends, and we'll do it.
Yes, go to our Facebook page. We actually, on the Facebook group, we hit 1,000 this week, which was a great thing. So yeah, over 1,500 on the main page, over 1,000 in the personal group, which we appreciate. We appreciate everybody coming in.
You like us. You really like us.
Yes, so we appreciate that for sure. But, we got a big show for you, folks. We got a lot of geek stuff to talk about, a lot of Marvel stuff as usual. Got a little bit of video game news. Again, the Snyderverse is coming up in the news because that just can't seem to die.
Oh, man. I wish it would.
Yeah, me too. We'll get into that, but we're going to kick things off. We got a lot of sports, so we're going to kick things off with the NBA. We are about to hit the NBA playoffs. Lee's 76ers have clinched the number one spot.
Number one.
My Knicks have clinched the playoff berth. They will not have to play a play-in series. They cannot go lower than the 6th seed. They cannot go higher than the 4. But they are in for the first time since 2013. And also we had some records broken. But first, we'll talk about the records in a second. Lee, what are your thoughts on your 76ers, who right now look like they are the team to beat in the East?
First time since 2001 that the Sixers have clinched the number one spot. The last time when we did that in 2001, we went all the way to the NBA Finals where we got trounced by the Lakers 4-1 in that rift. A young Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal doing what they do best. But I remember we won that first game. Allen Iverson was a star. That's the game where he stepped over Lou. Famous meme now. And I remember for the shortest of moments, we had this glimpse of, man, we might do this. And then we didn't. No. Listen, this is a culmination of several years of drafting and building and trusting the process. This is their year. That's what I'll say. I don't mean it's their year to win. It's their year to make the attempt to win. If they don't do it this year, I think that things start to go backwards. I could be wrong, but Doc Rivers was absolutely the final piece of the puzzle. And now it's on them. Look, they have come up close and dropped this so many times. All right. And again, the most recent one was when we lost to Toronto, I believe 2 seasons ago. And they went on to win the whole thing. I mean, this team's built to win the NBA championship. They're built to win the finals. I wish I could tell you who they were playing in the West if they make it there. I mean, usually we just say whatever team LeBron's on, but who knows with the Lakers this year. So I'm really proud of the Sixers. They, look, they did what they said they were going to do in a lot of ways with the regular season. Now it's time to put your money where your mouth is in the postseason.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is time. And you mentioned the Lakers. Briefly want to touch upon the West standings because although they could get to the 6th seed, it's going to be very difficult right now with only 2 games left. It looks like the Lakers are going to be in one of the play-in games, probably against the Golden State Warriors. And in a 1-game do-or-die kind of scenario, the Lakers might not make it into the main bracket. They could easily fall apart. I know LeBron is still banged up. He's still nursing that injured ankle. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens now. Of course, I think that to me, Golden State and the Lakers are the two of those four teams. Memphis and San Antonio are the 9 and 10 seed right now. Obviously, those two teams are cut above Memphis and San Antonio. I'm sorry, they just are. But who knows what's going to happen in a one-game do-or-die scenario?
Right, especially with those two teams. If Curry gets insanely hot, I mean, that's one of those ones. If the best players got to be your best players, and whoever has the best players is going to win that game.
Right.
But
and right now, Steph Curry is red hot, and then the Lakers have to play either Memphis or San Antonio. They could get upset and be knocked out. That could be it. They go 0-2. They're gone. Bye-bye. See you later.
I said. We don't. West is different than I've seen it in years. You know, like
yeah.
I mean, it was weird that one year the Lakers didn't make the playoffs at all. It was really weird. Of like, what, LeBron's not in the postseason. Well, what do we do?
Yeah.
What do we do?
Well, again, that was the year that he didn't have any help, and he was also banged up half the year, much like they are right now.
Yeah. Then they won the next year, which is super weird to me. But we can talk about that another time.
A lot of worst to first whenever LeBron is healthy. You know, he goes from hurt to healthy, and he'll go from worst to first.
It's the super team thing, you know, and look, you know, I go back and forth on the super team. Super teams are bad for the sport, but they're good for the brand. If you know what I mean, like it's a weird deal. And you know, some people, I don't remember when we were discussing this or if we were going to discuss this, but there was a lot of talk about shouldn't they put rules in to stop super teams from happening. And you know what I said? I said, I'm not a big enough of a basketball fan to be the person to answer that. I'd like to know what like really hardcore basketball fans say about that, because again, from an outsider's point of view, it is a little bit of a problem, but at the same time,
right.
I mean, you're going to tell the Lakers they can't go win the NBA finals. I mean, that's not going to happen.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing, right? We've talked about this before. There's a lack of parity in the NBA.
Yeah.
In fact, actually, this is probably the first year in a while where actually there is a little bit of parity with these expanded playoffs.
In a decade. It's the first time in a decade.
Yes. Yeah. Right? I mean, that's really an interesting thing. Yeah, I mean, again, a super team, the Nets, who are right now, they can go no worse than the 3 seed. They could wrap up the 2 seed tonight. You know, the Nets are a super team too. When Durant is healthy, Harden, Irving, like, I mean, that's a super team. Like, that's the team.
Yeah, I don't think the Sixers are. That's a great one. I don't think the Sixers are a super team. They're just a good team.
Yeah.
You know, Toronto was too. Toronto was too when they won. So, like, it also proves that these super teams can be defeated. All right. And to be fair, Golden State was not a super team when they started. All right.
Right. That first year they weren't a super team. They turned into a super team, especially when they got Durant.
Right. So. Right. But like, you know, that first year with Clay and
Steph.
That was just and like, look, man, they beat a really good team. Who they beat? Miami to win that one, or
no.
You know, well, they beat wherever LeBron was. I'll put it that way. It might have been the Cavs. But like I said, you know, they weren't a super team. So, like, it can happen. All right. And super teams, this is the funny part about super teams win when they play as a team. But the thing is that unfair? Is it unfair to have an all-star team that's bonded? Kind of is.
I mean,
you know,
it's the thing again. Look, the organizations are playing within the rules, and the players are dictating where they want to go. And we've talked about this before in the show, because you only got 5 guys on the court at any given time. One player can legitimately turn around a franchise.
Much more in basketball than any other sport. And you know, the other thing too is that, you know, I could actually make the argument, just thinking about this, that super teams were probably very good during the pandemic. With a lack of fans, because you're not losing it anyway. Like, you know, you know, whoever has the lowest attendance in the league, it doesn't matter. But I don't know. It's one of the things that keeps me away from basketball at times. Like, I'm not going to watch a game between a subpar or good team against a bad team, because I already know the outcome.
Right.
And if it's an upset, I don't care.
Yeah.
If it's a fluke, if it's an upset, you know what I mean? So,
and typically one game does not matter as much in the NBA as in some other leagues, especially later in the season.
Well, it's
right now things are interestingly bunched up between a couple teams, but that's not usually the case.
Yeah, and when you look at the other sports, like, look, hockey, again, if you're a home fan, like, I'm not saying everybody watches it. You can watch any hockey game. You're not going to know who's going to win most of the time. And if you like hockey, it's fun to watch every hockey game. Football, there always seems to be a storyline worth watching. Obviously, the Any Given Sunday approach is a huge part of that. But like, look, I can remember watching meaningless games at the end of the NBA or the NFL season. I was fine with it. Like, it was like, oh, this is cool. Like let's watch the Giants, or, you know, like, or the Eagles. I'm not making fun of the Giants. I'm just saying,
the Bengals, or whatever.
Yeah, like, and then when you look at baseball's it's more similar to basketball in this, but, you know, baseball's also baseball, right? Like, you know, when you get towards October,
Right.
Like you're in or you're out at that point, and that's more about having a beer with a friend at that point. So
usually the last 2 months of the season for baseball are the most interesting because that's when you start to see,
right.
All right, now that we have the playoff races, we have the wild cards, and we'll get into this later in the show about with our question of the week about what sports leagues
I am a
could
fan.
use.
I'm a fan that baseball expanded the playoffs. I think that was one of the smartest things they could have done. A lot of people, traditionalists, hate that, but I actually like it.
Yeah, but now the problem is they're going back to the old way this year. Is they only expanded it for last year during the shortened season, and to me that was the word. They should have. Anyway, we'll get into it later in the show. That's something else to look forward to. Sticking with the NBA, also want to just briefly mention, of course, last night was the NBA Hall of Fame 2020 ceremony that was obviously delayed because of COVID. So, of course, congrats to Kevin Garnett, Tim Duncan, and of course Kobe Bryant posthumously, as well as the other inductees. But of course, those were the big three, right? That was those were the headliners of this class, and rightfully so.
Yeah, his daughter was there to accept the jacket, his older daughter. And, it was actually, look, I'll be honest, it was all smiles, which was kind of cool to see. I mean, that family probably, they don't have anything to be happy about, honestly. And like I said, it was cool to see. I haven't seen a Bryant family member happy since he died. So that was kind of nice to see.
And,
you know what I'm saying?
So
I'm not wording
exactly. No, this was a great celebration of his life, and it was a great moment.
Thank you for saving me there. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was. Yeah, no, I got you. Also, just a quick briefly, I don't want to gloss over it. By the way, mention your 76ers. My Knicks are in the playoffs.
That's a big deal.
I'm going to eat crow. I want to eat crow. I'm going to eat crow here. I predicted at the beginning of the season the Knicks would go 31-41. They are right now, if they win their last 2 games, do the exact opposite and go 41-31. And again, make the playoffs. Credit where it's due. Tom Thibodeau has got this team playing together. Julius Randle has become an all-star, which nobody saw coming. And the young kids are producing. And Derrick Rose is having a career resurgence and accepting his role as basically a 6th man off the bench. Again, this was a former all-star, former MVP, and now he's a glorified 6th man. But he's really embraced that role, and it's been great for him getting 20 to 25 off the bench every game, and has been really critical to the Knicks' success. So, again, people are saying the Knicks' ceiling is the second round. They can probably win a first-round series depending on who they match up with. I think that's fair, but I also want to tell people that this team plays defense like we haven't seen in 20 years, and who knows what'll happen because of that. Just saying, not saying the Knicks are going to win the championship. I agree that second round is probably our ceiling. But boy, wouldn't it be something if the Knicks started upsetting some guys, especially those terrible Brooklyn Nets. Anyway,
here's what I'll say to you, Ray. I'm not going to say much about the Knicks because I'm actually just happy to see you excited about them talking about winning something again. And, the president of the GM of the organization came out like over a year ago with that letter saying like, look, we're going to change things. We're going to make this team New York basketball again. And he did. They have a new culture. They have a new philosophy, and it's paid off. That's how you get those extra 10 wins, 11 wins. And the cool thing is like, look, New York at its heart really is a basketball town. I've always said that. I've said that many times on the show. So I think it's great that the Knicks are back in the postseason. I think, there's some experience on that team. I don't know how far they can go. If we just follow logic, like you said, second round makes sense. But how cool is it for you to just be excited about the Knicks again?
Yeah, and that's the thing is that this is a team, and this is actually a team to be excited about, right? Like 7 years ago, people were like, "Oh, but they beat the Celtics in that first round in 23." I'm like, I wouldn't say that. People knew that Amari and Melo. We knew that ceiling. We knew that ceiling was locked in.
Yeah.
There's something about this team that when they go out there, I think it's because nobody expected them. People expected that Knicks team to be good, right? With Amari and Carmelo, right?
Yeah.
Nobody expected this Knicks, myself included, this Knicks team to be good. And I think that's part of the reason why there's a lot more hope around this team.
Right. Well,
they're bucking expectations.
Right. They're a team. Like I said, when you have a team, and they're young and they're hungry, you never know what's going to happen.
Right.
What's funny is the Sixers are like the team that's like just a few years beyond that now. And it's like, okay, time to win. We've been waiting. It was exciting, but now we got to win.
The Knicks, actually, that's a great, the Knicks now are the 76ers, I'd say probably like 5 years ago.
I think that's fair. We were just, we were getting in, but we weren't doing much yet, but now we're in the, it's time to win. You know what I mean? Nobody's surprised the Sixers are at the top. That's what I should say.
Yes, that is a very good point. Last thing for NBA, because I do want to get into hockey. Russell Westbrook, congratulations. An amazing record. The only man. First off, he's the only person to average a triple double for 4 seasons in the NBA. The only man to even do that once was Oscar Robertson, and now has broken Oscar Robertson's all-time triple double record with 182 triple doubles in his career. Obviously, Oscar had 181, and he did it in 100 less games than Oscar. So that really says something. I know a lot of people are talking about Russell can't win, but everywhere he's gone, his team was better because of him, and it was usually other guys around him. And again, the only reason why Washington is even in the playoff games, in the play-in games, is because of Russell Westbrook. He is probably one of the most underrated guys in the league because he's always come up short in the playoffs because he didn't have the guys around him. But folks, we are seeing something special here. Again, the dude is averaging a triple-double a game for 4 straight years. It's never been done. It's only been done one time in the history of the game. Appreciate what you're seeing right here from Russell and stop knocking him so much. That's all I want to say.
This is the issue I've always had with basketball, and I think it speaks to what we were speaking about earlier. There's so much GOAT talk in basketball that's around so many different things, and it always comes back, how many rings does he have? All right.
Right.
If we're talking greatest teams of all time, Celtics, Lakers, right?
Late 90s Bulls.
Right. Obviously, right? Then that's how you, in my opinion, use that argument. All right. If you're talking greatest players of all time, winning is important, but to me, it's not a qualification always when you're talking about the greatest of all time in something. Okay.
Yeah.
I think you can't be a GOAT without having won a championship at some point. I think that is a prerequisite, but it's not about how many they have. And I know he hasn't, it's kind of eluded him, but like, look, Wayne Gretzky, and you can use this as a transition if you want, Ray. Wayne Gretzky is a good example. The guy won 4 cups. He could have won 9. He could have won 10 if he stayed in Edmonton. Yeah. All right. He left to make the game better. He went to Los Angeles to grow the game. All right. Like it was a higher calling. His stats obviously help him be the greatest of all time. But my point is that when Westbrook is changing the game, Curry is changing the game, LeBron has changed the game, Jordan changed the game. These are the things that I look at. Bird changed the game, Chamberlain changed the game. I mean, I can get into this. These guys are proof the game is changing. Ray, you'll laugh at this. I was reading Steph Curry's kind of like draft report, and it was something like relies too much on the deep ball. Like, it was basically discouraging him from shooting threes. And like, he's changed the whole game with that. Westbrook's getting triple doubles. He broke the record because he's changing how the game, it's evolving. Right. You know what I mean? So
and again, just to really quickly back on the championship point, to me, I look at Russell Westbrook and unfortunately I kind of look at Dan Marino.
Right. Like he's one of the greatest of all time, easily.
Right, exactly. But he made it to one Super Bowl. He lost against Washington. Yeah. I think it was against Washington. And that was it. And are you going to argue that Dan Marino's not one of the greatest of all time? No, of course not.
He may have won a fictional Super Bowl in Ace Ventura against the Eagles, just to be fair.
Yes, that is true. He'll always have that.
He'll always have the thought that maybe he won in Ace Ventura. But no, I'm with you 100%, man. Not just basketball fans go to that. How many cups they got, how many rings they got. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I always thought that was part of the argument, but not the argument, if you know what I'm trying to say.
Right. No, I completely get that. I completely agree and understand. Moving on now to hockey. We got a lot to talk about with hockey. It's funny you mentioned that the Knicks put out a letter a couple years ago. Also, the Rangers did. Yeah. But now all those guys who put that letter out are gone.
They're blowing it up.
The Rangers front office is completely gone. Check out our episode with Annie O'Donnell if you want to get all our thoughts on that. But now the
live reaction
our final piece has been removed. Something that I've been calling for a while. David Quinn is gone. The Rangers fired their head coach. No surprise, and most of his coaching staff.
Right.
They didn't get enough out of this team. The team played better when Quinn was sick with COVID. I mean, it is what it is.
Unbelievably better. That's when your season turned around.
Right, and that's the only reason why they almost made the playoffs.
They didn't just play better.
I
I
mean,
think, if I'm not mistaken, Ray, like you won that game like 6-1. Like it was like a blowout.
I think that was the 9-3 game, the 6-1 game.
Stupid,
like that's when we kind of like went on those rolls, and Zabinajad woke up, and it says something when your best players play better when the coach isn't there. That's a red flag. That's like the big thing on TikTok. Red flag. Red flag. Like it just that's the thing to me. I mean, it's really quickly. Scott says in chat, the Rangers would have made the playoffs in every other division. Had a lot of injuries. Never close games. Those are true. We did have some injuries. We had a lot of drama around this.
We knew that. We knew that at the start of the season that a couple teams in the East were going to be good enough and not make it.
Right. So. Yes, exactly. The Flyers and Rangers would have in most of the divisions. In every other division, the top three pulled away, and then the fourth team kind of backed their way in, whether it was Montreal or Nashville or whoever. In our division, it was super tight and super close and super hard until the very end.
If I'm not mistaken, I don't know if you have the standings up, but I think we were both 10 games over 500. A minimum. And that's the thing is that I could be wrong. I haven't looked at the standings in a minute.
I mean, it's something like that. I mean, I'm going to double check. We were both several games over 500.
I mean,
yes.
It's not baseball, obviously, but just sometimes you got to take that into account. The other thing about the Rangers and the Flyers, if we're kind of doing a post regular season before the postseason that still has regular season game segment, the thing with the Flyers is that I'm not making excuses. This is how I feel. Right? I think they're actually a pretty good team. I think they're a lot closer than people think. I think we exhausted our goaltenders. All right. Yeah. I think that when we got COVID, the NHL gave us, and every team that got COVID, a stupid, impossible schedule. There's a reason that hockey players have 2 to 3 days off between games, right? And suddenly we're playing every other day for a month. I mean, it's impossible. It's impossible to come back from that. And the Rangers had unbelievable, I mean that, literally unbelievable distractions of a moron in their locker room and then a Russian scandal. If those things don't happen, I think you are in the playoffs, to be honest with you, because those 10 games, you probably win 50% more of them. You're right there. You're fighting for that 4th seed right away. But I don't know if you want to get into the back office stuff, but Rangers, man, very interesting kind of comedy of errors this year.
Yeah, no, right from the start to the finish. And again, James Dolan, the worst owner in sports. Let's go of JD.
He really sucks. Thornton. He really is an idiot. I mean,
he's the worst owner in sports, and it just you know what? I mean, Tortorella said it years ago when he was the Rangers coach. He just called him out in a press conference, said our owner's an idiot, and it's the truth. Yeah. Because Dolan, when it had a press conference, said we're winning the cup this year, and of course the Rangers did not win the cup. They have not won the cup since '94. We won a couple of President's trophies, but that's about it. So by the way, congratulations to the Avalanche for winning the President's trophy this year.
The big question on everyone's mind now, Ray, since you brought it up, is do you want Torts to be the coach of the Rangers again? I will tell you right now, I do not think that's going to happen, but would you want him back if you can get him back?
I personally love Torts, but I do not think he's the guy for this team.
I don't either.
I like his style. I like his play. I mean, but again, he is not the guy for this team. Right. I know a lot of folks are already talking about Messi. Bring in Messier. Let Messier get it. I don't think this is I get the sentimental value. I don't know if this is where I just don't know if that would work.
Ray,
I just don't think it would.
Word of the wise to Ranger fans that want Messier, who has 0 coaching experience.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's not. This is not a team that's.
Yeah.
Cut your teeth.
This is what I always say to people in these situations. You got to really think about this and be careful what you wish for. There's only one direction for Messier to go. Let's say he does come in and wins the cup. Let's just say that happens. He comes in, the Rangers win the cup. Well, the dude's already a mortal, so it just makes him more mortal, right? And don't get me wrong, like that would be magical on a what does Doctor Strange say? Henceforth to nether or whatever, like on a scale hither to something infinity. But you got to be careful what you wish for. Like, you will destroy your star. You will destroy your God because he's going to lose games. He's probably not going to be very good his first season, even if he makes the playoffs. So that's one of those things I think about. And like, I'd be interested to hear what he has to say. If he really wants it, I trust Mark Messier on almost everything when it comes to hockey. If he came on TV and said, I want the job, I'm going to interview for the job, and he has it, then hire him if he's qualified. Right.
Right.
Torts is not, one of the things about Torts, and I don't know if fans realize this. This is what's funny about John Tortorella as coach. His philosophy is you're going to win with me or I'm going to leave and your team's going to be destroyed for 3 to 5 years.
Yes.
Right. Everywhere he goes, they get really good. They get kind of a shot at going all the way. And then he completely loses his locker room and they are so brainwashed that you pretty much have to reshake your team. That happened to the Rangers. When he went to Vancouver,
Callahan, McDonough, all the way to trade all of them to Tampa Bay to try and
because they were brainwashed. They were brainwashed. Like it was so obvious that when Torts left, the Rangers were brainwashed to his style of play. It took because Alain Vigneault was your coach. It took him like 2 seasons for them to figure it out. And then say they have it in Vancouver. Look at Vancouver. It's like I'm trying to think of a character just leaves them in the when he leaves, man. It's just a destroyed city. Yeah. You got to build it up.
I mean, look, even though he won the cup in Tampa Bay, like that happened with Tampa Bay, it's happening now with Columbus. Like,
and that was in 2004 when the league you could chop a guy and tomahawk him on the head with your stick, and it was a boo-boo.
Yeah,
that sounds like Torch to me. You know what I mean? Like that was
exactly.
That was. But like let's leave Tampa Bay. Here's a funny stat. Not a lot of people know. Right. Right now, I get to use my hockey brain for a second. That Tampa Bay team blocked more shots than any other team in history, I think. So like you got to think about that. That means John Tortorella is going there. It's like if you don't get in front of that 100-mile-per-hour slap shot from John McGinnis, who's still playing right now, you're off my team. Like that's what they did. Like,
well, and that's the thing. A lot of us gave a lot of credit to Nikolai Khabibulin, who deserved the Bulin deserves a lot of credit too. But he was also not facing nearly as many shots as some of the
they were
these other
blocking
guys
like 15 to 20 shots a night. Like no one was doing that back then. Nobody.
And I don't know if it, and I don't know if it was the record, but I also know that when he was with the Rangers, everybody was blocking shots to the point where like it like almost ruined Dan. I mean, it kind of did ruin Dan Girardi's career, because he took so many shots, he just couldn't play the way he was used to play anymore.
And like most leagues, like every team mirrors themselves after the championship team. So for years, everybody was jumping in front of shots, and what happened was guys started getting hit in the head. All right, Bryce Salvador got hit in the head. Lappy from the Flyers got hit right in the jaw. I mean, it's just like a lot of these guys got hit severely in the face, and then Crosby got hit, took a year off, and then suddenly you weren't seeing. Well, I think you saw a mix of people are blocking shots a little smarter now, and I think shots are. To be fair, I think the shots are a little more accurate. So I don't think people are just shooting at head level anymore. But that just shows you just the changes that happen. The game has changed a lot, but my point was that 2004 Tampa Bay team, like. You could tell they had a gun to their head. Like, if you don't get in front of that puck, I'm dropping you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, that Stanley Cup still won 7 games. So
7 games against the Calgary Flames.
Yeah.
It was a great series. I was depressed the whole time because the Flyers missed that by 1 goal in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Final. And that I think I've said this before. That 2004 Flyers team was probably my favorite Flyers team of all time. And I was devastated. I was in college. I remember being in my dorms at Montclair State University in the Village. And first time in my life, I didn't want to watch hockey. And then game 1 passed and I was like, what am I doing? And I watched the rest of it.
There you go. Speaking of Tampa Bay, I want to quickly mention, this was a great story. The Tampa Bay Lightning, we believe this to be true, had the first all-black starting forward line play the other night. That is a big deal for the league, a league that is still only 6% minority. I mean, this was a big deal. This was history for Tampa Bay to do it. And I mean, they're all great. I mean, they all deserve to be there. Like this isn't like a gimmick thing.
They're all players,
great players or great up and coming guys. And I mean, it's a big deal for the league, I think.
Yeah, it happened.
I want to get your thoughts.
It happened in the AHL a couple months ago for the first time. And then like the way they're saying this is that the reason why there's a little query about is it the first is because it sounds like there might have been a case where it was potentially not recorded in the past, but we'll just say it is the first time it's ever happened. The fact that we have to discuss that shows you how often it happens. Right. So, no, it's huge for the league. It's huge for diversity. It's huge for pushing the right message forward. I don't get too political on this show, but if you have a problem with this, you have the problem. It's not
you're the problem.
You're the problem. All right. It's not a problem that 3 NHL players were put on the first line together. Tampa Bay's actually known. A lot of people don't realize it's outside hockey. Tampa Bay's known for doing stuff like that. They have no problem pushing the gamut forward. It has to start somewhere. Change has to start somewhere. It didn't hurt anybody. You know, it's a statement that hockey is for everyone. And I was
Yep.
very glad to have seen it. Remember, I'm in an interracial marriage. I was glad my kids can see that or that they'll grow up not having known the opposite of that. So that's all I want to say. Like, if you have a problem or you're rolling your eyes or the problem's you. It is. Sorry, it is. And I'm happy to discuss that with you. Please feel free to comment or discuss. I will happily message you about that.
You know, we are doing this live. So if you're on Twitch and you have something
live
to say,
recorded, Ray, you know this about me.
Yes.
I am always happy to have a conducive conversation with someone about any of the topics, even if we disagree. But I have no desire to have a conversation with anybody if their only goal is to prove me wrong or prove themselves right. I'm interested to learn. But good. But that's good luck with this one.
The only person who can learn here is the folks who take the opposite of this opinion. Because this is great. Like you said, this is great for hockey. This is
I don't get it. I don't get it. I'm saying I don't get how anybody just like rolls their eyes about that. Like,
no, I agree. Like, I mean, this is again, this is nothing but positives in my mind. So, good for Tampa Bay and good for the league.
Yes.
You also
it's a small. I should say this. It is a very small step forward. It is not a big step. It is not the step. It's a small step, but small steps become distances. So that's. I don't want anybody to think we did it. Like, I don't think we did it yet.
No, we got to start somewhere though.
I just felt like I had to say that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, of course.
Yeah.
Also want to mention, you mentioned, and we talked about Vancouver a little bit. This drives me nuts. I get there are some guys who probably have things in their contracts about points. I get there are things that for some guys that are probably trying to get a big free agent contract and need to prove themselves. But for those of you who don't know, the Vancouver Canucks are still playing regular season games, despite the fact that the playoffs have started already. As we're recording this, the first game of the playoffs, I think we started last night.
They started on
or today.
Today, yes.
Or they're starting today.
The postseason begins today. Yes.
The point is, and the sad thing is that one of the games that he's playing today is a game that Edmonton, who's in the playoffs, has to play a game that means nothing for Vancouver or Edmonton.
The AHL Edmonton Oilers will be playing today.
Yeah, like this is a worthless game for Edmonton and for Vancouver, and it's just because the league wants to be able to say that they had all their teams play 56 games, I think, and it's absolutely ridiculous and then 3 games for the Flames versus the Canucks, who both teams are eliminated. Sorry, as I hit my microphone there. Just absolutely pointless, worthless hockey. I don't know anybody who's going to watch these games. I don't understand if there's like television contracts involved or what, but this is stupid. This is the league doing something stupid, in my opinion, because again, these games don't matter.
Right.
They don't matter. Let Vancouver put the COVID season behind them, please. Nobody wants to watch these games. No one wants to play these games. It is not a good look for hockey. Lee, your thoughts?
I have several. So, because we've let our audience kind of discuss this a bit on multiple channels, and some of the comments we're getting they make me laugh. And I'll tell you why. Okay, so baseline. First thing, the reason they shouldn't play these games. I'm on they shouldn't play the game front.
Yeah,
we're getting so many reasons: contracts, TV, marketing.
Yeah.
If there wasn't a freaking pandemic going on, I would agree with you. All right?
Right.
All right. But there's a freaking pandemic going on. Canada is locked down. Like, I don't think people in America realize how locked down Canada is right now.
Yeah.
They also don't realize how far advanced America is right now in terms of the vaccination and opening things up. Canada is in a deep lockdown still. The cities are locked down. They cannot go to their friend's house. There are reporting measures. It's locked down. It's like last winter, when everybody was still going out here, even though we told them not to. Anyway, my point to you is it's locked down, okay? That's the point. It's a pandemic. They're locked down. This is not the year to test the boundaries of that, okay?
Yeah.
Number one, contracts, going into these points, contracts, TV rights, records, all the things like that. Again, I hear it. The NHL should just take executive action right now and say, under normal circumstances, we would still do this. But these games are being played because of abnormal circumstances in the first place. All right, because Vancouver got the plague for a month.
Right. There would never have been a delay to begin with.
Right.
If it wasn't for the fact of COVID.
Right. Then I got people saying, well, no one does this. They have to. The Major League Baseball does this.
Baseball does this. Baseball does this regularly.
Right.
If there are games that are rained out over the course of a season, that will not affect the standings. Again, if they affect the standings, the game has to be played.
Yes.
And if there's no playoff implications, the games are thrown out.
That's the other thing.
This has happened to the Yankees. This has happened tons of times before.
Yes, that's the other thing I said. If there were positioning, standings or playoff implications, you have to play these games. Now with the NHL,
they did this last year, baseball with the Detroit with the Tigers in St. Louis.
They did, right? It happens. Okay, like so that point is moot. I mean, there's a precedent in the other sports leagues. The last thing is this too. Again, there's a couple things. It's just what they should do. This is what they should do. All right. Edmonton's going to put their AHL team out there tonight, which is fine. You guys will get I mean, maybe you make it worth it for yourself. I'll be surprised if McDavid plays. I mean, he might be dressed. I'd be surprised if he goes out there a lot. I wouldn't risk him getting hurt.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Maybe goes out there for a shift or something. And
he's already hit 100 points. I mean, there's nothing he needs to do to make his regular season worth it. What I would do if I was the mayor of Calgary or the mayor of Vancouver, I would just have fun with it. And I'd be like, all right, we're making the BC Cup one season. It's a 3-game tournament. We're playing for this thing. At least have some fun with it. All right. So that those games are somewhat meaningful. The Mediocrity Cup, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. Yeah. Have a tournament. Enjoy the playoffs a little bit. All right. And it's just one of those things that I do not understand why that's happening. All right. So what the NHL should have done, Ray, and this is my big point, right, is I think it's a mistake. I'll say this. I think they made this mistake. The NHL should have made 2 extra weeks at the end of the season, a flex schedule, if you will, where no games were scheduled, where that if we need to make up games, this is the time period we're going to do it, and then start the playoffs. And if you didn't have to make up games, you just move the playoffs up. And I know what they're saying, broadcast and this. I'm like, well, integrity of the game here. I don't know. I don't see the benefit of this. Again, I had a lot of know-it-alls telling me why they need to play these games, but nobody really told me if they should be playing the games. You know what I mean? I think the larger morality is no, we shouldn't be playing these games. It's no one's fault they got COVID, Ray. It's no one's fault. I'm not blaming them either. But it should have been done with.
No, for sure. Completely agree. They should have just canceled the last few games of the season. There's nothing there. Speaking of the playoffs for hockey, there's a different playoff layout for NHL this year. For those of you who don't know, there are no conferences this year. It is the 4 divisions. And then basically after the first 2 rounds, since the first 2 rounds will be interdivisional matchups, there will be they will reseed, I guess, based on regular season standings. And then basically which might be the one reason why you could have an Edmonton game tonight against Vancouver. But again, the Vancouver versus Calgary games don't matter. But yeah, so you'll have a reseeding there, and then I guess to be 1v4 and 2v3 for your quote unquote conference finals, and then you have your Stanley Cup final. As Lee, thank you for the sub, Lee.
I know what you're talking about.
And now, Lee, what are your thoughts on this new conference format?
I mean, I don't have a problem with it. It's just very interesting, the possibilities that could come from it. So, like as you said, Ray, the obviously the first 2 rounds are interdivisional, and then you're going to have a reseeding for. I think they're calling it the semifinal. They have a weird name for it this year. It's like
the Stanley Cup semifinal.
It's something like that, yeah. Because like we usually call the second round the semifinal, but really it's divisional final. So I think it's like
it's conference quarterfinals, conference semifinals, conference finals, Stanley Cup final.
Right. So I think that the second round is actually the divisional final, and then you go to the semifinal and then the final. But anyway, the third round, my point is the third round, which is you said is typically the conference final, is a reseeding of the 4 remaining teams. So you could have a traditional Western, Eastern. It's possible. You could also have all, it's potential to have multiple West teams. You could have 3 West teams. It's possible. All right. So it's going to be really interesting. So the big key here, the big shocker here is that you could have a all West or all East Stanley Cup final. Which is not happening.
You could have like a Boston versus Tampa Bay. Right. You could have
Boston versus Montreal, which would be hell. Yes. I mean, that hasn't happened since the Cup finals in the early 60s. So
I mean, if you were talking like original 6 Cup finals.
Right, right. So again, it might just end up being normal. In fact, odds are probably that it will be. But with a reseeding, you might have a really interesting once in a lifetime final. Another note, Ray, I found out, you probably don't know this yet. They will not be awarding the conference trophies this year after the third round. So no team will win the Jennings or the Campbell Cups this year. You just move on to the Stanley Cup final. Now, what's funny about that is I'm not sure that matters anyway. Most of the guys don't really do much with that.
Right.
It would be funny if it's like a kids tournament. They come out with just like a little banner, like, "Hey, you won this championship of whatever it's called. You're one of two teams remaining." God knows that Nashville will raise a banner to that if they win that. But anyway, Nashville raises banners to everything. But very interesting. Look, the NHL playoffs are going to be fun to watch this year. If you're even a modern hockey fan, this is a year to watch the playoffs. I mean, every game is going to be a bloodbath, and it's going to be fun to watch. So I'm actually really excited about it. Something else no one is really talking about, or I've heard a little bit buzz now that they're about to start. Zdeno Chara is going to be playing against the Bruins today, right away. I mean, when you're watching this, the games have already happened, but first round matchup, I mean, wow, who could have picked that?
Boston versus Washington.
Don't sleep on the NHL playoffs this year. It's going to be fun.
Yes.
It's going to be a fun year.
Yeah.
Angry Monkey says, boo. Are you a Boston fan?
He's a Boston guy. I think
you can't hate Chara, and you know it. You love Zdeno Chara. When he goes out there, you're going to be so conflicted when he rips Lucic or he takes Brad Marchand and wipes him against the board. You're going to be so conflicted. Like, oh, yeah, don't do that. I love you, Zdeno. Captain Zdeno.
Real quick. Beginning of the playoffs. I know you don't like to make predictions, but if you're picking a team, who you're picking?
Colorado. If you put a gun to my head, I got to pick Colorado. But as you know, in the NHL playoffs, in another year, I'd say it's Colorado, Vegas in the conference final, but it's not possible.
So this year it'll likely be the second round. I explained it to a neighbor of mine actually in the laundry room because he's a big hockey guy. He knows I'm a big hockey guy.
Laundry room sports conversations with Ray. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, oh man, so you think Colorado Vegas conference final? I'm like, that's impossible. I had to do it. I did the explanation. He's like, what? It was the first time he had really heard out of the playoffs.
But that's why the playoffs are going to be so great. Like those divisional finals, the divisional finals. These guys have been playing each other all year. The second round of the playoffs is going to be epic. Yeah. And then they're going to be dropped into a situation with a team they've never played this season. It's going to be insane. Yeah. That's going to be.
That's just right. Exactly. The Stanley Cup semifinal and Stanley Cup finals. These teams will be will be playing each other for the first time all year.
The other
interesting.
Here, look. Any second round matchup. I really mean this. Any second round matchup, I'd be looking forward to. But if Toronto plays Edmonton, if Vegas plays Colorado. In the East, for me, it's really anybody versus anybody, to be honest with you. Right. I mean, any of those matchups are fun.
Yeah, Pittsburgh, Boston, Pittsburgh, Washington.
Right. I mean, just there's not going to be a lack of anything, and it's just something you got to see it. But yeah. So Nick Camelli says he's hyped for the Beast Caps. So I can't tell you one play. I'm going to look at the matchups again just real quick, just so I can sound like I know what I'm talking about. But I'm going to say this, guys. There's not a matchup right now that's not amazing to me. All right, Boston, Washington, amazing. Islanders, Penguins, that's going to be a really good series. Now, here's something people are going to sleep on with that. You kind of have the aging super team of Crosby and Malkin, this team that's kind of knows it, prove it, against this young team. I actually said another podcast, Ray, in the East, Old East, Islanders are not a team I'd sleep on. They could go all the way, all right? Minnesota Wild versus the Golden Knights is a great matchup. Tampa Bay versus Florida is an amazing matchup.
That's a tremendous matchup. Right? That's great for Florida hockey. Yeah.
All right. And then I got at the bottom here, regular season game. Nashville, Carolina is an amazing matchup. St. Louis, Colorado is an amazing matchup. All right. I feel like I'm forgetting somebody. Maybe I'm not. Winnipeg, Edmonton. And then who's Toronto playing? Toronto's playing
Toronto, Montreal.
I mean, every series is awesome.
Yeah.
Every series, and it's going to feel like that the first two rounds.
So now I need to ask you, is this something the league considers going forward? Because if these first two rounds are as amazing as you say, and we have a great run, not necessarily obviously to the regular season, these teams will go back to the regular season next year. But in the playoffs, do you think about permanently changing the divisions when you have Seattle joining the league next year? Obviously, you can't do a Canadian division because then you'd have one division with 9 teams and one with 7. But do you put Seattle in the Canadian division and have this new regional based divisional matchups and then redraw the conferences where it's the East and the South and the West in Canada or something like that?
No, yes and no. The answer is no, probably not. You just go back to what it was. This is a very unique situation where it made sense. You could potentially keep the alignment, if you know what I mean, and sprinkle the Canadian teams throughout them. The problem is that, you're not going to get away from, you got to play all the other teams. You got to play 31 teams.
No. No, for sure. Definitely the regular season goes back to the way it was. Everybody plays everybody.
What I'm saying is that takes away from what we're talking about, right? So when you play everybody, you're gonna have a grip on the league. You're gonna know who's good and who matches up. So those rounds won't be as exciting. The reason why they're exciting is because you haven't played anybody else. Like you had the whole season to get to know these teams. You pick the same team, so it's like, like I said, Pittsburgh and the Islanders, they know exactly what they're getting into. They know exactly what's about to happen, right? Yeah. And it becomes a coach's matchup, becomes a tactical matchup, which I'm like, listen, for those of you that are like super into football, basketball, baseball, this is me, right? Like the thinking of the game is going to be on an all-time display, and someone's going to get out coached big time, and it's going to be obvious. So the other big question, Ray, is people always get on me for not picking the Canadian teams to win. Toronto and Edmonton are really good. It's just so hard to gauge them when they haven't played against the rest of the league. Toronto's looking great this year, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. I don't want people to think I don't want Edmonton or Toronto to go all the way. I just look, they've got a better chance than they've ever had. But this is the other problem. Yes. Like knowing Edmonton and Toronto, it's very possible Winnipeg or Montreal might show up, and that's it for them. Right. You know what I mean? I've seen that happen before.
And then suddenly they hit a more physical team, like somebody from the East, and then like suddenly then they're right. That's it. They get as far as the cup semifinal now. Sorry,
yeah. I was gonna say I would not be surprised to see a lot of Game 7s. I also wouldn't be surprised after the second round if we see some sweeps. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens.
We will see. Nick said he loved this season and all the games were so personal. Yeah, I mean, but again, Nick, like we were just saying, though, next year, regular season, everybody's got to face each other for sure, which might obviously, like Lee said, take off the edge and maybe make it go back to the way things are normal.
Yeah, well, look, the big story for next year is the Kraken coming in and joining that Pacific division and see how that shakes up. What's going to be really interesting, Ray, and no one's talked about this yet. I'm going to bring this up as I get a musical interlude, which is pretty nice.
Sorry, I had my alarms set because
that was your Geeks alarm.
Right, that was my Geeks alarms. That was obviously the Guile theme from Street Fighter.
That's awesome, though.
because typically we do the show later in the day, so I forgot to turn my alarms
on. No, that's pretty awesome. It's the Guile. So for those of you who want to know, Ray wakes up to the Guile theme song. Why don't you play it for him right now? That's pretty awesome. I'll finish my thought while you bring it up, but all right. This is something no one's talked about yet, Ray. With the season that Vancouver just had, how many people jump ship and go to become Kraken fans next season? Because they're very close. We're talking less than an hour away from each other. Those two cities.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So like, if I was a Vancouver fan this year, our good friend Matt Cavalieri will have a thought on that. He's a Vancouver fan. But I'm going to get tempted by the new team that has a brand new arena and a really awesome jersey and a pretty cool logo. Yeah. It'd be really interesting to see how it's going to go. Okay, the Guile theme. This is what Ray wakes up to every morning. So wait, put yourself at home, close your eyes unless you're driving, put yourself in a position of a very angry man sleeping and now waking up to this. Now, do you rise out of your bed when this comes on? Yeah. You do one of these, just like
the Undertaker.
Yeah.
It's more like I kind of roll out of the bed, kind of like how, yeah. Like Sonic Boom, and I roll out of bed. And
Sonic Move!
Yeah.
Sonic back pain!
Yeah, exactly. Oh, open the shoulder blades! Yeah. Open the shoulder blades!
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. That's what happens when you get older, folks.
For me, when I wake up, I get out of bed and I look at my shoulder and I have to go, get over here. And it's like, oh, sorry, I'm awake too. And then I look at my back and I go, and it doesn't respond.
Yeah. So there you go.
Or I'm more like Star Trek, probably. With my back, I go back, engage. It doesn't go warp speed anymore.
We're old. Anyway, moving on. Speaking of things that are old, how about the Oakland Athletics? I guess it's getting old for them to put that stadium.
Come on back to Philly. Come on back to Philly. Hey, bring Billy Bean with you.
Yeah, So the Warriors left for San Francisco proper. They used to play in Oakland. That's why they were Golden State, but now they're going to San Francisco. The Raiders, of course, moved to Vegas. And now it sounds like they're kind of pressuring the A's to get out of Oakland. Yeah, Nick's saying in chat the Vegas A's. I mean, that's kind of the hot spot right now for all sports teams is to go to Vegas. And this basically, I mean, look, Oakland, it's kind of sad, but it hasn't been really a premier destination for sports for a while. And and again, this is partially because of Northern California and San Francisco, and just everything's way too expensive. And I'm not going to get into all of that, but there's a whole economic reason why as to all of this is happening. Monkey, the Tampa Bay Rays should leave Tampa Bay. The Trop is the worst stadium. The Trop is the worst stadium in baseball. I do not care. As bad as Oakland is, the Trop in Tampa, or excuse me, St. Petersburg, that whole area is a dump.
I can't
And that
wait.
stadium is a disaster.
I can't wait to see how Major League Baseball screws this up.
Yes.
I can't wait.
Yes, because they will. And
They
that's
will
the thing. Already,
screw it up.
like much like they screwed up with the playoffs and everything else, this is baseball. Rob Manfred, again, thinking only about the bottom line because he's the worst commissioner in sports history, pushing the Oakland Athletics to get out of Oakland despite all their history there. Obviously, 4 World Series in Oakland. They had 5 in Philly, 9 total.
Angry Monkey says Montreal, the Expos kind of area, that is potentially possible. I don't think it'll happen just because of what Ray just said.
Yeah.
Is that I don't think there's enough money there for him, but yeah, I know the Expos kind of area wanted a team back. But look, here's the deal: Vegas is an obvious destination. You'll be able to transfer some of those Oakland fans over there. If you move them too far east, the fans won't follow. The other thing too is there's that scene in Moneyball, right, where Billy Bean's going to the owner and he's asking for more money, and he's they talk about the Yankees keep buying all our great players. I want everybody to know I think that is absolutely true. I think that's exactly how it happens out there. I don't think that the A's ownership really does.
No, they don't
want
care.
to
The
win.
current A's ownership does not care.
I don't think they do. I think Billy Bean did. But it's one of those things where that's a real tortured sports city in general right now.
Yeah.
And look, if they move, they move. And they're doing it like they always do it, which is give us a stadium and we're moving, even though they could pay for it on their own. They don't want to pay for it. And I just look, man, when multiple teams are leaving the city, it's you. It's like dating. When everyone doesn't want to go out with you, it's you. It's not them.
Yeah.
All right. So
well, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, again, Oakland, at least the Warriors only went basically across the bay. They went from Oakland back to San Francisco. And that's the thing also by always calling them the Golden State Warriors.
Right.
They technically could go anywhere in California.
Smart.
Even though originally they were always the San Francisco Warriors, then they went to Oakland. That's what it's a whole thing. So in a way, they're kind of going back to their roots.
Go to Vegas. It'll be good. It'll actually be good for the game. Vegas has proven itself to be an amazing sports city. Amazing.
Yeah.
I've been to Vegas multiple times. I've met I'll say, rooted Vegas Golden Knight fans. So people who live in Vegas and they love the team. Like, I'm not talking fair weather fans that came from someplace else and they're just implanted themselves. Okay. People don't realize that there's a massive city that is Las Vegas outside just the casino area. A lot of people live out there and they love the Knights. They're going to love the Raiders.
There's a lot of big suburbs,
right?
Henderson,
Huge,
whatnot.
Massive military presence. Like, and not to mention, like, one of the cool things, when I go to Vegas is, you want to go to a hockey game because you're in Vegas, and why the hell not? Like, so that's why it works out there. So I think that it is a no-brainer to put a team there. I know it's going to compete with the Diamondbacks, and I think that's a good thing, right? Yeah. No offense, Oakland, but move the A's to Vegas. It's obvious. They'll be treated right out there, and they'll have all the money they need to win.
Yes, exactly. And Monkey says, what about moving Oakland to San Jose? I'm going to say this right now, Monkey. That whole Bay Area is a dump.
That's too
San
expensive,
Francisco,
too.
San Jose. It's one of the worst places. I've gone there plenty of times. I hate that area. I think it's one of the worst.
It's too expensive too, right? Like, you can't afford anything out there. Like,
San Francisco's the most expensive place in the country.
Right.
It's because of Silicon Valley has basically ruined that whole area to the point where it is almost what's the word I'm looking for?
Uninhabitable.
Yeah. I mean, basically uninhabitable.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
unless you're a billionaire.
And you can't, exactly. And there's no way that I don't know how they revive it at this point, to the point where actually you're starting to see a lot of the companies that started that move in Silicon Valley actually moving down to LA now. That's how expensive it's gotten in the San Francisco Bay Area.
What's funny is that, you look, the writing's on the wall. Here's something, again, people aren't talking about this. You know a lot when people are leaving major cities, and most people going to Texas right now. Like, most people are going to Texas if you're making big moves. You know what I mean? So anyway, look, the A's have had a proud franchise in Oakland for a long time. They won most of their championships Well, technically in
Philly.
Philadelphia. Yeah, it's when they're
Yeah.
Philadelphia. Of course, we had a championship winning baseball team. We let them go across the country. We kept the Phillies, the worst team in the league, who I love, for lack of a better word. All right, but yeah, no, it's time to move. Their heyday is way gone, way gone.
There's also been rumor about moving a team to San Juan, Puerto Rico.
That would be great too. They would love that.
Which would be interesting.
Yeah,
yeah.
Well, I mean,
it's obviously a huge baseball community down
massive.
there, so.
Actually, Puerto Rico, massive baseball following, also massive basketball following. They have their own professional league down there. A lot of people don't know that. That's followed heavily on the island. So I'd be all for that. I think anything to help relations between the mainland and Puerto Rico is a good thing.
Yeah. So I mean, and that's the thing too. And at this point, you're flying to every stadium anyway. So
it's not. I mean, yeah. It's only a matter. Like one of these leagues is going to have a non-continental team at some point. All right. I was going to say international, but Puerto Rico wouldn't be international. But like I'm saying, like the NHL's flirted with this for several years. You know, like somebody's going to eventually put a team outside.
Well, that's what I'm saying is like you don't take a bus to every city anymore,
no,
right?
Like flying. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
The flight to Puerto Rico is not. It's not harsh. All right.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, it'd be at this point. If you're flying to Tampa or to Miami, you can fly to Puerto Rico, and that's the thing. So,
on your private.
So that's
jet.
the big baseball news. Yeah.
So your private jet with all the amenities, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. Trust me, these
hard.
guys are taken.
We're in the Caribbean. Oh.
Yeah, these guys are taken very well care of. So, speaking about being taken well care of, Aaron Rodgers is basically mad that he's being treated like Brett Favre was when Aaron Rodgers was drafted.
That's exactly.
That's the thing. Like nobody wants to say the truth, but I'm going to say it. This is how Brett Favre was treated when he was coming to the end of his career in Green Bay. Now the same thing is happening with Aaron Rodgers, and although the quarterback is even probably more important now than they were originally in the league, this is exactly what Green Bay did when they drafted Jordan Love. Jordan Love was Aaron Rodgers 15 years ago. So I don't know why Aaron is so surprised. I get why he's hurt. But he's got to understand this is the exact same thing. This is karma. This is the tables are reversed. You know what I mean? Like he is now Brett Favre. He won a Super Bowl for Green Bay, and he's being he took him to many playoff appearances and won MVPs, and now he's being thrown on his butt. And I don't know. He'll probably end up with a garbage team like the Jaguars or the Jets for a year, and then he'll go wherever he wants. Then he'll retire, and everyone will forget those years, and it'll be fine.
Yeah, look, this is one of those situations where I wish I could really hear what's going on inside the front office, right? To understand like how, like, cause maybe they are treating him like crap. Cause like, again, when you hear these stories, it's like, well, I deserve to be treated a little bit better. And like, maybe you do, but this is a business and, you know, we have a new guy and you're getting older and we got to think about that. And I can just hear people like, why don't you treat me more like Brady? Like, well, you're not Tom Brady.
Yeah.
No one is.
Yeah.
So, look, at the end of the day, I wish him the best of luck whenever he gets moved, if he gets moved to wherever he's going. And, you know, my suggestion, not that anybody's listening, but I wouldn't continue this too long because it's going to degrade your team. It's going to degrade your team. All right. And
the thing is that also they might be waiting for June 1st when there's less when there's less cap hits to trade.
Yeah, right.
So.
Well, that's probably what's going to happen. For those of you who don't remember, Favre went to Minnesota, which is, if you're not a fan of football.
First he went to the Jets for a year.
That's true. He did go to the Jets, and then he went to Minnesota.
And then he went to the Minnesota for 2 years, and then he retired.
Which, for those of you who don't know football, Green Bay and Minnesota don't get along at all. All right. His Jet year wasn't horrendous, if I remember correctly.
It wasn't. I think they went like 8-8 or 9-7. He got banged up towards the end of that year.
Yeah.
And that team, horrible. Obviously, he willed that team to be even halfway decent because that Jets, as always, the Jets are trash.
Yes, they are.
So, and then he went to Minnesota and they made the playoffs 2 years. They lost. That was the year they lost the conference championship to the Saints before they went on to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, well, I can tell you
that was Favre.
With Brady, you know, this again, I know how athletes kind of think. You know, Brady goes from the Patriots to Tampa Bay and wins the Super Bowl.
And Tampa Bay gives him everything he wants.
Right. I mean, you'd be crazy if other quarterbacks in the league, like an Aaron Rodgers, who's in the conversation. That's a fair point. He's in the conversation in terms of like he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Right. He's probably going like, you know, he did this. Why don't I just go somewhere and win and get whatever I want? You know, like Arizona. We'll see.
Or the New York Giants. All I'm saying is
that would be
we have a couple first,
epic.
We have a couple of first-round draft picks now to trade after we had the draft. I'm just saying, Aaron Rodgers, New York would love you. I think you'd look great in blue, buddy. And it'd be a great warm-up then for you to be on the big stage before you go and host Jeopardy for the rest of your life. So
I'm Ray Carcillo's co-host, and he approves this message.
Yes. So speaking
That would work.
of
Actually, Brad,
quarterbacks not getting what
that would work. Not gonna lie to you.
that actually, because I
That would
really do
work.
think the Giants with that defense, the Giants are kind of
Yeah,
actually
I
are
mean,
really a
you'd win the
quarterback
division.
away.
You'd win the division.
We'd win the division for sure
Yeah.
with Rodgers, for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'd go much farther than that, but we definitely win the division because
Yeah.
again, that with that defense, the way it's built, I think we're a quarterback away. We could also use like a left tackle, but anyway. Speaking of quarterbacks not getting what they wanted, Tim Tebow is going to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and Trevor Lawrence, this is not probably what he wants in terms of a target. Tim Tebow, they're trying to convert him to tight end. Obviously, very familiar with Urban Meyer and his play style and his culture. People keep talking about, oh, he's a culture player. You know what else they could have done? They could have hired him as a coach to be, if they really want culture, because Tim Tebow's almost 34, almost 35 years old, and has never played a lick of tight end in his entire life, and is now trying to be converted. This is a publicity stunt. He will not make the final team. Mark my words.
So. I don't think you're wrong. Here's the deal with Tim Tebow. I think we've talked about him on the show. I never understood. I never understood why people hated him. Everybody is, it's like we said earlier. If you hate him, the problem's with you. He has done nothing wrong ever. He's a saint. He's done more for humanity than most people on the planet at this point. So look, the kid has a dream. Not a kid anymore. He's got a dream and he's going to pursue it. And he'll never look back on his life saying he didn't try. That's the truth.
Yeah.
And if he does make the final roster, he'll have earned it. And that shouldn't surprise anybody. People go, he's failed at football. He failed at baseball. I was like, well, okay. How do we define failure here? I mean, he made the NFL. He won a playoff game in the NFL. He happened to be replaced by one of the greatest quarterbacks in the history of the NFL. So there's that. Then he went to baseball. And he almost made the Mets. Let's be honest about it. He was pretty.
He got up to AAA.
Right.
People were talking about that. Like if the Mets had less outfield depth, they might have actually called him up at some point.
Right.
He was doing pretty well in the minors. But
let's be honest, if you didn't play for the Mets, you probably would have made it all the way. And now he's back in the NFL. So look, whatever he wants to do, I support his right to do it. I just never understood all the hate with him.
Right. Now the thing is, though, is that this has brought up another discussion. Is that he basically got a contract without a tryout, without anything,
that's weird.
And
that's
he
weird.
just picked up by the Jags. And then there's another person called Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah.
Which, and I understand there's a lot of drama between his tryouts and all this other stuff. But the fact that and the league did apologize for basically admitting they blacklisted him. But at this point, if Tim Tebow can come in and do whatever the heck he wants, shouldn't somebody in the league, if you need quarterback help, take a flyer on Colin Kaepernick at this point?
I'll be honest with you. I think the problem with Kaepernick, like that situation, it's not. Look, I think they're very different, and here's why. All right, I get the distinct feeling, and this is only because of the last time he tried to break in the league, that Kaepernick potentially makes it very hard for teams to sign him. And what I mean by that is this: when he had that tryout, I really thought someone was going to sign him. I was like, oh wow, he's coming back, and someone's going to sign him. And in my opinion, he squandered that opportunity. Changed the thing at the last minute. He gave a huge speech. And again, I'm not even talking about what he spoke about. Like that's his platform to do that. But I think that turned off a lot of teams of like we don't want to deal with this. This is not what we came here for. And again, there's a lot of stuff surrounding that tryout now too. About
I was going to say a lot of stuff has come out about how the league kind of tried to sabotage it, and all this other stuff. But so, there's a lot more behind that than just that would happen.
Yeah, I think the thing with Kaepernick is that he is not going to stay quiet, and he doesn't have to. I'll say it like that. Right. And teams they don't want to deal with it. And like again, like there's a point where it's like, okay, he's good enough to make it. We don't support his message. We're going to sign him anyway. I mean, we just saw that with what's his name in Tampa Bay, who has won the Super Bowl, Antonio Brown. All right, but I don't know. I don't think Tim Tebow should have to take the crap for this. Tim Tebow is doing what he does.
No, that's not Tebow's fault.
Yeah, and it's like there's a lot of people go, that white boy is. It's like, like that's not where we need to go with this conversation. Like the point is that one player is being able to go back in, and another player is not after a lot of time off. That's what the conversation should be about. But in my mind, but I don't know. I mean, I don't think
All I'm
Kaepernick's
saying is
ever
if
going
I'm
to
the
play
New York
again.
Giants, I'm looking at Colin Kaepernick as well because I really hate Danny Dumpster Fire.
Well, that's the managerial move. But like I said, this is why I always say we're not privileged to all these conversations. Like I've never been in a room with Colin Kaepernick, and I don't know how that conversation goes. And like the question is his? Nobody talks about this. Is his? And this is for all players, not just Kaepernick. Is this players being in the locker room going to be a big enough distraction where we can't win? Right. And that's how these teams think. Like I'm not talking about social issues right now. Like, and if that's a big thing for a team to take on. If the Giants take on Colin Kaepernick, you're taking on all of it.
Right.
And that's probably not something the Giants want to deal with. And that's
no, the Giants are historically not ones who like to deal
right.
with that
And that's
stuff.
my point. Now, Tim Tebow is not a problem after he gets cut. You know what I mean? So or he makes the team. Then the story is, oh, how far can he go? But I don't know, man. Like I said, I've said this before that I personally don't like to mix a lot of that stuff with my sports. That doesn't mean it shouldn't happen. It's just like I'm exhausted with it. Like, good for Tim Tebow. That's what I'll say. And if Kaepernick got a chance, I'd say good for him too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, and the league has come out and admitted they completely screwed the pooch on that whole situation.
They did.
So.
And like most sports leagues will be like, no, we already said it. And they moved on.
Right.
Yeah. But I guess, look, leagues think career. Like the leagues look at this like this. Look, after he's 40, the problem goes away. Because it doesn't matter anyway. That's how leagues look at things. In 100 years,
no, that's also true. Like, I mean, guys, it's it. That's
and that argument works. That argument works both ways. All right, like there's a lot of bigots that aren't going to be around in 50 years because they're going to things will change and they'll die out. It's just the way it is.
Right. So speaking of careers post football, though, DK Metcalf did something interesting this week, which was he ran for Team USA or tried to compete for Team USA to possibly get into the Olympics. DK Metcalf, of course, wide receiver for the Seattle Seahawks. And he put up, in my opinion, now, mind you, he placed 15th out of 17 possible runners, but he still wasn't dead last. And also, he only missed first place by a quarter of a second. Also, DK Metcalf is built like a refrigerator.
Yes, he's big.
And the fact that he is a big, he is like, you look at these guys, he is literally as wide as two of these guys next to each other, right? Like a runner's body versus a football player's body is very different. I honestly think that quarter of a second between his 15th place finish and the first place finisher, if he started training to be a full-time runner and like slimmed down, I think that's the difference between him and the guy in first place. It's literally just the fact that he hasn't been training to be a sprinter. He's been training to be a football player. But the fact that he got that close, because a lot of people are like, oh, in track and field, a quarter of a second is like a century. I'm like, no, it's not. That's a quarter of a second. That's not a lot.
Well,
to me, that's not a lot.
How I look at it, you're telling me he's a top 20 runner in the country. That's what you're telling me.
Yeah.
I'd like to have that.
He plays for the Seahawks.
Yeah, I'd like to have that on my football team. So that's pretty interesting. Good for him for pushing the athletic limits. I can appreciate that. There's more money in football though, so stay there.
Well, for sure. But I also respect the fact that he thought that he could try to represent the country and all the other stuff. And obviously,
good for him.
To
I mean, that's cool to see. That's a cool story.
Yeah. So that was a cool story. I thought that was very cool. And again, he only missed it by a quarter of a second. And to me, that's, I don't know. I'm not a big track and field guy, but to me, that's not a lot of time. That's really fast.
Look, your track friends aren't wrong in saying that it's a lot of time in track, but in reality, it's not.
That's my thoughts. So, also really quickly, last NFL story before we get to the geek stuff. NFL schedules released this week. Opening game is Tampa Bay, Tom Brady.
Tampa Bay.
It's not
Tampa Bay quite,
Brady's
are coming back.
It could be Tampa Brady.
Tampa Brady's.
Tom and the Bucks will begin their defense against Dak and the Dallas Cowboys. That was an interesting pick for the schedule. Giants start their schedule against Denver. And of course, the biggest thing for this is it is the biggest season ever. That's what they keep saying because it is the first 17-game schedule.
Biggest season ever.
Yeah. Lee, who are your Eagles kicking things off with, and what are your thoughts on the schedule release and the opening game?
They are against the Atlanta Falcons away, which
they can win that game.
We should win that game. I mean, the big key is going to be our new look team with our new look coach and our new era of Eagles football. So, look, I'm looking forward to this season. I just don't like. At the end of the day, I want to keep this short. The NFC East doesn't look nearly as horrible as it did last year. There's brand new storylines for all four teams. It should be a much more enjoyable year. Last year was a miserable football season. It was tough to watch. So I'm looking forward to the football season. and that extra game.
Yes, it should be interesting to see how that affects things going forward for sure. So that does it for the sports section. A longer sports section this week. That's kind of why we kicked it off with the sports because there was a lot to talk about, especially with the NBA and NHL. With these things starting there. Yeah. So moving into the geek section, we got a lot to talk about. There's gonna be football's thrilled that there's more games because there's gonna be a lot more commercials they could sell. And speaking of commercials, it was revealed actually a couple weeks ago because again we kind of took a hiatus there with Annie. That the commercials in WandaVision were specifically, this is again according to Kevin Feige, communications from Doctor Strange trying to get through to Wanda from the outside, that reminding her subtly of her past. It wasn't her remembering things. It was somebody else trying to remind her, which again only leads to the fact that they wanted Doctor Strange to appear at the end of the series, but they just couldn't make it happen because of COVID. So I thought that was a very interesting fact to, again, try and tie everything together. Lee, what are your thoughts on this story?
It's amazing to me that we're always going to be in this what if thing with WandaVision. No pun intended to actual Marvel's what if. But it's interesting because it's like now with the show, I'm like, what did you guys really want to do with this, and what were you trying to tell us? And then I also think too, like, did you tell us exactly what you wanted us to hear anyway? Like, did we really miss anything by him not being there outside the cool, like,
right.
Oh, it's Doctor Strange? What that story made me think of, Ray, is that we never did get an explanation about the commercials and what was going on there. And I guess it's kind of cool. I feel like there's more to that than just him creating the commercials to get through her. And like, why is he trying to get through her? Where was he that he was watching all this? You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, sometimes those rumors frustrate me more than satisfy me because it didn't happen.
Right. Again, was it him trying to get through and then her bubble converting things into commercials kind of thing?
Right.
Like, so
that would have been interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yo,
and
magic.
Again, I guess. Yeah, and I imagine that things will probably get more explained in Doctor Strange 2 in the Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, I hope so.
Like at this point, they'll probably add a few minutes to that to kind of be like, yeah, so we couldn't do this with WandaVision, so here's some exposition, and they'll put it out there. So, but yeah, I thought that was a fun story. Speaking of fun stories, right now there's a thing going on in the comics for Marvel called the United States of Captain America. It's Steve Rogers trying to get his shield back, and he's traveling across the country. And we talked about this a couple of months ago, where they added a gay Captain America, and now they have added a Native American Captain America. That there's basically other people who have taken up the mantle of Captain America to represent some underrepresented segments of our society. And so now they're doing a Native American or indigenous person Captain America. And I think it's cool. First off, he's got a great costume. Like it looks, like he's got the headdress, and he's got the very traditional Native American garb with feathers and animal parts, but it's all red, white, and blue. And I think it looks awesome. But yeah, I think this is a great story, and I think it's a story that, especially in our time right now, that we could use to kind of like be like, yeah, hey, we're all Captain America. We all could be Captain America.
Well,
right?
and that was the point of the show, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, too. I think it's great that they're doing this. It's long overdue, unfortunately, but I think it's great that the comics trying to match kind of what's going on in the MCU right now with the messaging. Again, have no issues with it. Everyone should feel like they can be Captain America. The conversations I have with people sometimes, I'm going to try and keep this one conducive so people can learn, Ray, but it's like people go, well, like, he can't be Captain America. He's not this. And I think that's the point, is Captain America is meant to represent all of us, everyone. So yes, you can have a Black Captain America, a gay Captain America, an indigenous Captain America, an Asian Captain America, a female Captain America. We're all supposed to be represented by that character, and good on Marvel for doing that in the comics, right? And that's the point. Yeah. That's the point. So like, if you've got a problem with this, odds are you've never been underrepresented. That's what I'd say, right? If you've got a problem with it, right? So, and that was one of the things about, I'll say, Captain America and the Winter Soldier that was so cool, was that they tackled that of like, they even say it at one point of like, Steve Rogers didn't represent us. He didn't represent me. Like, people would argue that, but that's the point, right? Is that it's all of us. So, and I do hope there's a day where the color of someone's skin or gender or orientation won't matter for representation, but that's not today. That's just being realistic. But by the way, side note, they almost called Falcon and the Winter Soldier at the end Captain America and the White Wolf. I don't know if you heard about that or not. They almost changed the name of both of them. But they
Right.
probably did the right thing in not doing that right now. And in the future,
Right.
I won't be surprised if they call Bucky White Wolf if that's his name.
If Bucky become, I mean, obviously
Yeah.
in the comics, the White Wolf was a completely different character, but
Right.
it makes a lot of sense for them to merge these characters into Bucky.
Yeah.
Um,
He's not the Winter
and yeah,
Soldier
I think,
anymore.
and
So yeah.
right,
Right. I
exactly,
mean,
and
actually,
that's the thing.
I'd
So
say the Winter Soldier officially died in this film, in this show.
yes, no, exactly. I think that him putting that to rest and him coming to terms with his own demons, I think, was a great way to end it. I think, but I think again, the focus for this was really more on
Captain America.
Sam's journey, even more than
Uncle Sam.
Bucky's.
Yeah.
So I think that exactly, Uncle Sam, and now we'll have Captain America, and then probably in Captain America 4, because again, that's been confirmed. Poor Anthony Mackie found out in the grocery store. We talked about that a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
But go back to that. Go back to episode 107 to hear about that.
Yeah. Real classy. Real classy Marvel as always.
Yeah. Just sometimes it's just somebody drops the ball.
I forgot.
Unbelievable.
But his agent knew.
So exactly. His agent knew. Speaking of things that some people probably know about Marvel, is that there's more Spider-Man 3 rumors coming about. Again, this is coming out later this year. There's a lot of people talking about a lot of different things. We know that because of Doc Ock, Alfred Molina is going to be in this movie, that people are now starting to talk about other characters from other parts of the Marvel universe that could be introduced here.
Right.
For those of you who don't know, the Punisher was originally introduced in Amazing Spider-Man number 129 in a similar way where he was hunting down Spider-Man. Because Spidey's identity is going to be out there now, people are talking about what if John Bernthal's from the Netflix shows, that those have all reverted back to Marvel, what if he is now introduced in that way in this film? I'm going to go one step further. Since we have a multiverse coming in, what if Thomas Jane's Punisher is brought into this somehow in a similar way? And also, again, is this a potential vehicle to introduce a lot of other characters back into the Marvel universe in this film and in the Doctor Strange film and all these multiverse stuffs? Lee, what are your thoughts on Punisher in some shape or form coming in Spider-Man 3?
Yeah, we've been hearing these rumors about the Netflix Marvel stars coming back, and I think what's been happening is the Marvel's been kind of trying to figure out, do we want this or not? Now, the way Netflix made those shows is they took place in the MCU, right? They didn't hide that, they didn't show anything from the MCU, but they kind of coexisted with it in a way that they could do that. That was just probably smart. I have no issue with the Netflix characters coming into the MCU. I think people would love it. I haven't heard anybody say don't do that. Like there's not two sides on this, right?
Yeah.
But I'd love to see Daredevil, Punisher, all Iron Fist. It was Luke Cage, and how am I forgetting her name? The original Jessica Jones. I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with them coming in or coming to Disney Plus. What's wrong with that?
I mean, that's the thing. I would like to see those shows at some point go to Disney Plus.
Yeah, they were good. They were really good. Especially
Daredevil.
Daredevil's great. Yeah. And then you bring Kingpin in. You really want to recast him now? That was awesome.
No. Oh, I can't think of his name, but no, he was amazing.
Yeah,
unless they want to recast me as Kingpin. I can be the Kingpin. Folks, check out my Halloween costume from last year. I can be Kingpin. I can do it. I promise. I know he's a bigger dude, but I can get stilts. I'll learn. It'd be great. Fantastic. Anyway. But that is an interesting thing. Speaking of trailers and rumors and more Spider-Man stuff, the Venom 2 trailer, the big Venom 2 trailer with Let There Be Carnage dropped this week. Yeah. We saw that they changed Woody Harrelson's hair after the blowback from that, so he's wearing a more conservative wig.
Whatever.
And then, of course, it's a very interesting thing that the relationship that they showed off here between the Venom symbiote and Eddie Brock. There seems to be much more of a symbiosis there, a more of a true relationship. And we got a very, very brief look at Carnage, which he looks very comic book accurate. We also saw Shriek. For those of you who are not familiar with Maximum Carnage, go read that storyline. It's one of the best in Marvel's 90s history. So again, hinting at the idea that they are going to do, or at least hint on things from Maximum Carnage. I don't think we're getting Doppelganger or Carrion or Demo Goblin, some of those other crazy things. But the fact that we're going to have Carnage and Shriek, I need to go watch Venom now.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it too. As I kind of want to see Venom. The trailer was hilarious. Woody Harrelson, for those of you a little younger, has played crazy people before, and he's done it insanely well. I think a lot of people know
No
him
pun intended.
more from, yeah, that's funny. That was good. I think a lot of people remember him from like Zombieland and some other films. Like,
Yes.
but he was in his younger years. He played some really crazy people,
Yeah.
especially in what was that, Natural Born Killers. So like
I mean, he's done a lot from Larry Flint to
right, he can do
obviously. I mean,
this.
he's most known as a
Right.
comedic, early career known as a comedic actor from Cheers and things like that. He's done everything. Woody's got a wide range.
I just, the other thing about this trailer is the way they had Brock interact with Venom was hilarious, and I was like, oh man, I kind of want to see this. They got me with this one, right? The question is how are they going to move forward with this, because it's a problem.
Yeah.
It's going to be a problem if you don't incorporate Spider-Man into the story at some point.
These are some of Spider-Man's biggest villains,
right? Now you could get through Carnage and Venom without him being there, but at some point you got to figure that out. And now the question is, I don't think Marvel's Spider-Man works. So it's like, are you going to create a multiverse Spider-Man in that universe? Are you going to create another Spider-Man? Which I don't know. We'll see how it does.
We got into the Spider-Verse. We know there's multiple Spider-Man out there. Just
I mean, what would you be funny like if Tobey Maguire comes back? It's like, wait a minute, no, it's totally different. But it'll be interesting to see. Like, you can't do another movie in that series now without Spider-Man. And will Spider-Man be in this movie in some form? Will they hint that again?
Yeah.
If Marvel's doing a Spider-Verse, which they've already done technically. You could do it. You could do it and explain it really well. But the problem is, I don't think you want someone fighting against Tom Holland right now for screen time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Unless there has to be an explanation. That's what I'm trying to say. But
they got to figure it out. This could get very messy very quickly.
I do love the end of that show. It's like, I would be happy to eat Mrs. Chin. He goes, we can't eat Mrs. Chin. Like, I love that.
Chen's like, what?
Yeah, I like that. I would be happy to eat.
There was some good comedy actually in this trailer. We also know we're getting a Morbius movie. Like, we're getting all of the Spider-Man secondary characters.
Right.
So Sony's got to do something with Spidey at some point with Marvel and Disney, and like
Morbius also has Vulture in it. So like they're hinting that could connect. So it's like, you guys got to,
you got to figure this out, guys.
I got to see Venom. Ray, you and I need to see Venom, and we'll watch Maximum Carnage, and then we can kind of come to a conclusion of can Tom Holland work in that universe that they need to redo.
Actually, when I come visit, we could watch Venom.
I like your style.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
I would be happy to watch Venom with you.
Yes. So we want more from the Spider-Verse. We don't want any more of the Snyderverse.
Yeah, Ray and I are on the same page with this, and we have fans.
Warner Brothers
don't agree, but that's okay.
Warner Brothers has come out and said that they are done. They are wrapping this up with Flashpoint. That it is being sunset. Now there's talks about Jon Stewart Green Lantern scenes that were cut and all this other stuff. And at this point, guys, it's a mess. The Snyderverse, look, even with the Snyder cut, it did not save this franchise. It did not. It made it a little more palatable, but at the end of the day, DC is smart in trying to kind of be like, you know what, we're going to let this move on. We've got to try and focus on what makes our characters good. And Snyderverse does not do that.
We have said this. I'm going to say two things, Ray, because I actually don't want to spend too much time on this personally today. Okay.
Me either.
I'm going to say two things. One thing we've said repeatedly, the future of DC is in Dwayne Johnson. That is who's going to relaunch DC. There'll be a new Spider-Man in that. There'll be a lot of new characters. In fact, the only Snyderverse quote unquote character that will survive is Shazam. All right.
Yeah.
All right. And that's not Snyderverse, to be fair. All right. Just those movies came out during that time. All right. Technically, it's not. Like that's
they could easily make it not Snyderverse.
They are banking on the biggest movie star in the world in Dwayne Johnson. That's where they're going. So please, first off, let them do that, because that's a good move.
Yeah.
Snyderverse fans, I respect that you love the Snyderverse. I really, really do. Okay. I know what it's like to love somebody and not other people like it, but you need to reach for a higher bar. Zack Snyder, who I have a lot of respect for, believe it or not.
Yes.
He is throwing you scraps and you are crawling at them like you haven't been fed in years.
Yeah.
Ascend. Look for something better. It's not that good. All right? I'm saying it. It wasn't that good. Those movies were hot messes. They did not get the characters right. I personally think Man of Steel and the first Wonder Woman were the best two that they had.
Yes.
I know we're getting another Gal Gadot movie, which is fine. All right.
Yeah, they'll finish up her trilogy.
Or
That's
they'll
fine.
make her Flashpoint can open all. I think what Flashpoint will do, Ray, is they can borrow anybody from the Snyderverse that they want moving forward.
It's also true. We know we're getting Aquaman too.
Yeah.
Like we know that some of these movies are still moving forward,
Right.
and that's fine.
And I just,
but Warner Brothers for once is right in this and being like, we need to start to sunset this.
Right. Look, what they're creating, in my opinion, is a position. If they go, okay, we want Aquaman, we want Wonder Woman, we want Henry Cavill. Come on over. All right. Well, what about Ben Affleck? We're doing Batman Beyond. But what did you say?
Yep.
That's what's going to happen. All right. You got to move on.
Once Michael Keaton is Batman again, you're all going to shut up.
You all should have shut up already. And like I said, I know we have Snyderverse fans that listens to this show. I just think you have a low bar, and I think you need to raise it a little bit. I don't think that these movies are going the right direction to properly represent DC Comics. And I think that, again, I think a lot of this is ego. Just you don't want to let go because you've been fighting for it. You got what you wanted. You got the Snyder cut. That's it. We're not making 3 more of those. I don't want to see that. We already know what happens. It's done. Put your money on The Rock. Put your money on the. Why would you not put your money on Dwayne Johnson? Like I don't think people give him enough credit, Ray. Like this dude is openly challenging Marvel. Like you understand the cojones on this guy? To say like
he does call himself franchise Viagra, so I mean.
He's also said that he's changing the hierarchy. Again, we've talked about this. He's changing the hierarchy of DC Universe. That means he's going after Superman. Like, wake up. All right. And like I said, you don't think Disney or Marvel, Disney, who, by the way, he works with all the time, you don't think they came to him and said, hey, how about doing a Marvel character? And what did he say? No, I'm going to take over DC instead.
Yeah.
You bank on that guy. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
I love The Rock, by the way. It's not hiding.
We got our buddy Matt in chat agreeing with us that DC needs a new beginning and that DJ's the guy to do it.
Totally the guy.
And also a good point that WB and DC really lacked direction there in those years, and that's very true.
Yeah.
That's why we saw a massive house cleaning the last few years when AT&T bought the place, and why. I mean, again, and actually it goes back to the Star Wars thing. The problem with the last Star Wars trilogy was no direction and no vision beyond. There was no plan. And I think that DC now with this new hierarchy, after cleaning house, which goodness knows when I was there they needed it, and they obviously have finally done it.
Right.
They're gonna have some direction. It's gonna be it's gonna go through some growing pains because again, you still have the remnants of the Snyderverse. You have to sunset this, but they're gonna do it and they're gonna move on, and hopefully things will be better.
They will be better. I'm not gonna say hopefully because listen, guys, it wasn't great. You gotta. That's the thing, Ray. It wasn't great. All right. It was okay. That's what they were. Those movies were okay. Some were a little bit better than others. Nothing was
some worse than others.
Level. And you know what I'd like for DC? Including me, I'd like to stop comparing DC to Marvel and just have it be its own thing again. Like it used to be. All right. And look, again, we're a few years away from seeing what they do. And if they screw up the stuff with Flashpoint and everything else. And again, the thing I always come back to, dude, is Michael Keaton has always said he would never do it again unless there was a script that got, and there's no way he took that lightly. There's just no way. You know what I mean? So I have a lot of hope for where DC is going. Dwayne Johnson, Michael Keaton, save us.
Yes.
I'll whisper back. Oh, okay.
Real quick, we got in chat, Angry Monkey saying that going back to baseball, that there's more Mets fans than Rays fans in the Trop. Of course there is, Monkey. There's these things called old New Yorkers who who have now moved and retired to Florida, and nobody likes the Tampa Bay Rays in Tampa Bay. So of course there's more Met fans there. Hopefully the Mets actually do their job and get a win today and help out my Yankees. So moving on now into video games. We've got so speaking of things that just common sense things like letting the Snyderverse sunset, video game fans are up in arms because they are mad that Bethesda has announced Starlight, a new franchise for them, is going to be an Xbox/PC exclusive. What did you think was going to happen when Xbox bought Bethesda? What did you think was going to happen? Honestly, come on, guys. This is common sense here. Of course it's going to be exclusive. That's why Microsoft made this move. And the fact that they probably are looking at doing Elder Scrolls 6 and the next Fallout and everything else exclusive. Yeah, that's why you buy a studio with all that IP. so that you can make an exclusive. These were shots fired. Microsoft being like, yeah, we're going to look into it. We're going to look at. Why do you think Sony put baseball on Microsoft this year? To try and give them, be like, look, we need you guys. We need your franchises to stay here. It was a peace offering. Microsoft's got the ball in their court. Microsoft doesn't need what Sony has. Sony needs what Microsoft has.
Microsoft owns the court. That's what I'm trying.
Yeah.
It's not the ball. They own the court. This is why I keep saying, and our guest Eric Wallace, who's a PlayStation fan, I totally respect him, didn't agree with me on this. PlayStation is going away. Dude, I've been saying it for months. These are not small things that are happening. These are tectonic plate moving moves. All right. And Xbox, like you just said, what did you think was going to happen? They were going to throw Sony a bone. They don't want Sony to exist.
Yeah.
They don't want them in the game. That's money they could have. Now, if you're telling me that's not fair, you don't know anything about business. That's how it works.
Not to mention, all of Sony's exclusives have started coming to PC.
Right. Days
Gone, Horizon Zero Dawn. Why do you think this is happening? Guess who owns PC gaming? Guess what? That's Windows.
Right.
It's Windows.
Right.
Like,
and again, the writing is on the wall here, guys. And again, Ray, look, can we just take a step back here? Like, we're talking like maybe not oil baron money, but you're in that conversation when it comes to the gaming world. You know what I mean? We're talking an incredible amount of money. That's why Microsoft is going for the kill. All right.
I mean, and the thing is, and I know why people are mad. It's that a lot of folks, because we had the numbers, right? Sony had an amazing PS5 launch. There is no denying that they were the fastest selling console in history in these past 6 months. And that right now, the whole industry as a whole is suffering over the chip shortage that was caused by COVID. Because people are still like, I can't get an Xbox or a PlayStation 5. It's not Sony or Microsoft's fault. That is that's a COVID thing. We're still dealing with the ramifications of that.
Ray, I'm going to do this. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Now you're starting to see the chips fall where they may. So when those consoles start being stocked on shelves again, the reason why there was such a blowback is that 7.8 million people who bought PS5s in those first 6 months are now mad and are or not all of them, but a lot of them are realizing they might have backed the wrong horse. That's why you're getting this blowback right now.
So I'm going to do a little visual representation for those of you that like visuals. For those of you listening, I'll do my best to describe this, and Ray will as well. I'm holding up now a very large Hulk action figure. This represents Microsoft. This is a big action figure. It's about 10 inches tall.
Xbox green.
It's scaring my dogs. I am now also holding up a McDonald's Happy Meal toy Hulk action figure, which is about 4 inches tall. In his battle gear, he's ready to go to war. He's very excited. He's got his axe and the hammer. And this Hulk is like, yeah, man, I'm Hulk. Now, Microsoft Hulk is punching. You can hear it, right? He's punching the little McDonald's Hulk, and he is now down for the count. Now, in the background of all of this, Ray, is Nintendo, who is Groot in this thing, just like, hey guys, I'm just passing through.
Just hanging by himself.
What are you doing there? Hi, what's up, Nintendo? Hi, I'm still here. I am Groot. All right. So we've just had our Spaceballs. We'll call this the Spaceballs approach to explaining this. All right, guys, again, PlayStation fans, I think you're in denial. I will also say that there's a long road to go here. This is nowhere near done.
No, Sony's won the past couple of battles, but Microsoft is looking to win the war.
Microsoft has the money to win the war, and anybody who knows about war, you're probably going to win the war if you have more money, and they have plenty of soldiers. That's the other thing too. So I'm just saying, and I'll continue to say this until it happens, that Sony has not done enough, in my opinion. This is why I'm so sure of this stuff, right? They have not done enough to show me that they're serious about this for the future yet. And people talk, they sold more consoles. I'm like, then Xbox came out and said, we don't make money on the consoles, we make money on the games.
Yeah.
So that stat that all the PlayStation, I'm not anti-PlayStation, but all the PlayStation, they sold more consoles. It doesn't matter. That means they lost more money.
Neither company makes a
monstrosity.
lot of money, if any money, on the consoles. Look at the software sales. A lot more games right now are selling on Xbox than on PlayStation.
Why do you think they're tripling down on Game Pass?
Yeah.
Because you won't need a console at some point.
Yeah, probably next generation.
It's on
especially
the
if the Biden
wall.
infrastructure deal goes through.
It's on the wall. If you have a PlayStation, if you have that gigantic caped monstrosity, enjoy it. I'm not telling you not to, but be realistic. This is probably the last console they're going to make.
Potentially. I mean, it's definitely a potential thing. I mean,
what I love about these conversations, Ray, is that Ray absolutely correctly is kind of not jumping in this with me, and I think you are right to do that. I think in your industry you're right to do that. I'm not in your industry, but I do like how slowly they're chipping away at my idea, and I can see you kind of like, you know. But I would not. If I was in your position, I wouldn't jump all in yet. And again, look, there's a chance PlayStation can come back. I just don't see it yet.
It's going to come down to software. The honest truth is that right now, and this is true, folks, and we have the numbers. Game Pass is kicking Sony's ass.
Killing
it. It is, and it's part of the reason why I think
they need to
part of the reason why baseball came to Game Pass. Like, I mean, that was a huge deal. Like, in fact, it actually crashed the Sony servers the servers still aren't working right because Sony was not expecting all of those Xbox players, especially with Game Pass, to flood the MLB The Show servers. If you've been watching my stream the past couple weeks, you've seen all the bugs.
Here's the other thing, Ray. You know, you said it's a peace offering. It's also how much money does Sony get every time someone plays that game? That's the other reason why they're doing it, is because they get paid. Right? And that's a huge red flag for Sony. All right, so unless Sony comes out with something better than Game Pass, which let's be honest, their best chance is just something comparable, which would be fine.
Right, they'd have to basically match it,
but they haven't yet. And like, so what I'm thinking is, again, if I'm thinking my business hat here, what happens is towards the end of this console generation, PlayStation is going to release the next thing that's Game Pass. There won't be a console though. It's just going to be PlayStation Game, but whatever they call it. But they have a name for it yet,
right?
You know, PlayStation whatever.
Yet. I mean, they got PlayStation Plus. It'll probably be an evolution of PlayStation Plus.
Can anybody look me in the eye right now and say that until PlayStation releases their subscription service, until that moment, that this is not like watching Radio Shack or Suncoast Video or CD Now trying to compete with Apple iTunes? It's the same thing. It's happening again. Apple iTunes came out. We still bought CDs for a few years, and then we didn't. To the point now, young people don't know what CDs are. We used to get CDs in the mail. That seems like a foreign concept to people now. You don't have to look far to see how this plays out. Unless Sony gets together and makes the greatest subscription-based gaming service in history, which I think they could do, believe it or not.
Yeah, right? For sure.
This is not going to go their way.
And like Matt says in chat, Xbox is already set up for cloud gaming when that takes over. Again, that's an infrastructure thing.
They are way ahead. Way ahead.
Yeah. I mean, exactly. And again, Matt also says, I mean, PlayStation's they got to pull something off. They got to do something like a
you know why they won't,
or
Ray?
Something.
Because of this guy, Nintendo. This is why they won't. Because Nintendo is also sitting there like market share. That's what they're doing. Nintendo has played this perfectly. All right, but like you talk about the biggest computer company in the world that has a gaming division. Like you're not gonna. I mean, IBM might be in that conversation too, and Apple obviously. You're not gonna win. Who knows what Apple does? Maybe Apple buys Sony. Who knows?
Who knows what happens? That's the thing. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. As you see, again, Bethesda got bought by Microsoft. Like you're seeing all these companies, a lot of big companies are being consolidated until just bigger and bigger companies.
Right.
You could see somebody like Apple or Amazon or Google get into these spaces by just buying the gaming division of somebody else.
Right. What I hope is going to happen is in 7 years when this happens exactly as I'm saying it, the news is going to be like, who's been saying this for years? And they're going to go, the geeks who like sports have been saying it, right? We're going to go on there and be like, yeah, we said this way back in 2020 during the pandemic. You guys remember the pandemic? Oh, that sucked.
Oh, goodness. You know what else sucks is we wrap up our geek section here is that we move into our question of the week.
I'm not going to dive into that answer, but no, tell me, Ray.
Several sports leagues and their playoff formats. So our question of the week is what sports league should change its playoff structure, what desperately needs a refresher, an update. And part of this is being brought on by, again, hockey is having a new playoff structure this year. The NBA has a new playoff structure this year. Baseball did last year.
Right. Sorry, hockey's having
it's
a modified playoff. It's still the same playoffs, it's just modified. That's what I would say.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, which one of these should probably be changed the most, or maybe even changed to this new sort of format? We touched upon it a little bit earlier. I mean, for me, the easy one is baseball should do the 16-team format it did last year.
That was so much better.
With the 3-game mini series to kick everything off, and then you go on, and there's no buys. There's none of this ridiculous 1-game wild card play-in game. You know, every team actually has a chance with a 3-game series.
Totally.
Yeah, I think baseball needs to look into that, because to me, the 5-team structure for each league, it's not enough.
Yeah,
it's not enough.
Yeah, look, one and done games are tough for me outside the NFL. We'll talk about that in a minute, because you could potentially eliminate a team that really could have done something. Now, people go, that's why you play them. I like 3-game series. If you're going to do that, I think it's fun for like play-in type stuff. I just, baseball's postseason before it expanded, it bothered me. It really bothered me. It's just like, you know, because you're done so early. So I would love to see baseball go to 16 teams. I don't know how,
especially as the league is looking to expand to 32.
Right. Like I said, I mean, you could adapt the NHL style of just have 7-game series with you know, the 4 rounds, but they won't do that.
Yeah, but I don't mind doing 3, 5, 7, 7.
That's I was just gonna say, like, because the thing with baseball is they don't want a 2-month postseason, and a lot of that has to do with weather, and I get that. All right.
Yeah.
You know, and like, I'd be for shortening the baseball regular season and expanding the playoffs. And yeah, like you said, I think 3 and then into 5 into 7. I have no problem with that. You know, you know, and again, as you look at each sport, like, I think basketball and hockey, 4 rounds of 7 is awesome. I've never had a problem with that. You know, again, it's a modified playoff thing. I think that the NHL should look at doing, you know, a little bit of a different reseeding on how people get to the playoffs, and how they match up in the playoffs. I don't have an answer for you now. Like I said, this year's format's awesome, but it only works this year. That's something I would like them to look at. I've always been interested in seeing the NFL on a best of 3 matchup base. The thing is, like, there's so much majesty and magic around the one and done any given Sunday mentality that's really tough to do that. But like, can you imagine if the Super Bowl was 3 games?
You'd really expand the playoffs.
Well, massively, and that's why it can't be done. But like, in the nature of the show, let's just say for a second you could do it. Like, what would the Super Bowl be like if it was a best of 3? Like, it sounds crazy. It does. And like I said, you can't break up the Super Bowl, but it's just like, you imagine that, like, if Tampa Bay had to play 3 more times against Kansas City, Kansas City probably would have won. But the tactical side of it would have been insane. Like, how many times did we talk about teams getting out coached in a Super Bowl? That's what happened to the LA that one year. You know what I mean? So it's like, what would that do to Belichick? You know, it's kind of amazing to think about.
Well, that's the thing too, right? Would the Giants have won those Super Bowls if it was more than just those? Games?
Probably not. You know, so I like to think about it. You can't change it. Like I said, if I think the answer to the question is this: baseball needs to change its postseason. Get away from your traditionalist thinking. Allow more teams to get in. It would make it so much more enjoyable towards the end of the season. Not to mention, we know that some of those lower teams can win. We know it. I think that has always been a big money thing, why they haven't done it. The teams that were winning probably fought against it. I could see the Yankees doing that. I understand that. Yeah, I do understand that. All right. The other thing too is hockey will modify, I think, their playoff structure next year when they have the full 32 team squads. I'm interested to see what they do, but I've always loved, at the end of the day, Ray, I've loved the best of 7 4 rounds, and I've loved the football playoffs. They're just super fun to watch. And the March to October is fun if you're in it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
If you're not, it's just kind of like, all right, more baseball to me.
Right. No, completely fair. I completely agree with that. Like, I mean, that's the thing. Last year, there's a lot more teams who were eligible because of that expanded playoffs. And the Marlins made the playoffs and went to the second round. And it was a lot of fun. Yeah. So, So that we want to know, of course, though, what you think. Yes. So comment below, obviously, or comment in chat here as we're wrapping things up here on the show. Of course, also want to mention, as always, we still have t-shirts available for sale. We just put that in chat. We've, of course, also got our Facebook group, our Twitter, our Instagram. We changed our Twitter and Instagram handles now to GWLS Podcast. So it's a little bit easier to remember. It's just the initials, obviously. But of course, and as always, you can reach out to me and Lee anytime. Ray at geekswholiksports.com or Lee at geekswholiksports.com. We appreciate everybody tuning in. But thank you all so much for tuning. Yes, Hulk Ray Hulk. Instead of Gray Hulk, it's Ray Hulk.
Like you and me, like
and Lee is Groot. Lee is Groot. But yeah, thank you all so much for tuning in. Of course, it's also we're gonna be off from Stream Lounge this week. By the way, at least no thing on Wednesday. Lee carried the ship on a double broadcast yesterday, as I had a horrendous evening. Yeah. So we'll be back next week. Stay tuned for the schedule. I'll let you know what the official schedule is. Leo, of course, is going on vacation, and then I'm going to the East Coast. So who knows what will happen there?
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. So until next time, thank you all so much for tuning in. As always, for Lee, I'm Ray. This has been Geeks Who Like Sports, episode 108. Good night, everybody.